Hello everyone, I'm Ben Abben. Welcome to DICED. In this week's episode, we're going to be making pot roast. I got myself some tri-tip from Cherry Street Meat, and that's the first step, marinate the meat. Now we're going to make our marinade in a little bowl here. I like to use sambal because I like it spicy, so we're going to add a little bit of that. We got some pepper, some olive oil, and some garlic powder. Now I'm going to mix this all up in a bowl. If you notice, there's no salt on the table. So we're going to use salt right before we cook it, because salt actually cooks the meat, and we don't want to cook the meat while we're marinating it. Ideally, you can marinate it overnight. If you don't have that kind of time, marinate it for like a half an hour. I'll put our garlic powder in here, ground some pepper in there, a little bit of olive oil. Boom. All right, so I'm going to stir this up. We used about 2 tablespoons garlic powder, a half a cup of olive oil, and 2 teaspoons of the sambal. And like I said, we're going to wait and put the salt on before we cook it. We're going to go ahead and just dump this on here. Boom, just like that. Mix it up real nice. Go ahead and flip it over. Do the same to the other side. Perfect. Now we got our meat marinated, and we're going to set that aside. Our next step is to cut the onion up, get it ready to go, so that after we sear our meat, we'll pull it out, and we want the onion to be ready to go right into the hot pan. All right, we'll peel this, get it cleaned up a little bit, no skin on there, set it to the side. All right, we got our onion peeled. Now we're just gonna run the knife through it, give it a nice little chop. Cut it right down the middle. Boom, about a 1/4 inch thick. Get rid of our ends. All right, so we got our onions. Put those in a bowl. Separate them a little bit. Then wash the onion juice off our fingers so we don't start crying now. This is supposed to be a good show, fun show, not crying show. You know what I mean? We're gonna get ourselves a hot pan. Get that ready to go. Add some more olive oil. Just a little bit, perfect. All right, so now we're gonna salt the meat up. Get a decent amount on there. Tap it in. The sides, the back. Yeah, that's good. Roll it around this meat marinade a little bit. All right, once that oil gets hot, we're gonna add our meat to it. And we wanna get a nice good sear on this tri-tip roast. And we're gonna turn our heat down a little bit so we don't burn it. I'm gonna get in there, just kind of let the oil get underneath there. Before we turn it over, now we're gonna turn it. Just a nice little simple sear. Doesn't have to be crispy or crunchy or just a little bit of brown. This is what holds the juices inside of the meat. I'm actually gonna sear the meat on all the sides. So even if you have to hold it up a little bit, leave it there for a minute, set it on the side of the pan. See all that beauty right there? That's gonna be all the flavor that we're gonna deglaze with red wine to get that out of the pan so we can use that in the cooking process. We got our beef broth box. We're gonna shake it up real good. We're gonna pour a little bit of this into the crock pot just so that when it's on high and the meat's ready to go in there, there'll be a little bit of liquid in there. And we're gonna set this to the side. All right, so now we're just gonna put the meat into the crock pot. Boom, just like that. Let that go in there. I got my onions we chopped up before. I'm gonna add that in there and turn the heat back up. Get those broken up a little bit. Let those go for about 2 to 3 minutes. All right, now we got the meat seared on all sides and it's in the crock pot. We got the onions going in there, and we're gonna take our garlic cloves and just kind of smash them up a little bit, just to get the juices out of them. We're gonna run a rough chop over them. Put them back in our prep bowl. Now it's going to be a coarse chop on the garlic just to get the juices out, and we're going to add this in with the onions. We added the garlic in with the onions. I'm just going to let that go for about a minute. I'm going to deglaze the pan now with some red wine. Get all that good stuff off the bottom. I'm going to add about, I'd say, a cup of red wine. Over here. Deglaze that a little bit. Grab yourself a spatula, just kind of run it over. Get all that good love right there in the pan from when the meat was in there. All that flavor, get those in there with the onions. It's gonna burn off the alcohol a little bit. Now we're gonna add the rest of our beef broth into this mixture here with the red wine, the onions, and the garlic. Just go ahead and add that in there, nice and slow. Basically, we're gonna bring this to a boil. We're gonna also run the spatula to the bottom of the pan. Oh, it's all clear and nice. Now all those seasonings that we seared the beef in there, those are all loosening up because of the alcohol that burned them off the bottom of the pan. In bringing this to a boil, we're gonna cut down our cooking time in our crock pot. So now we're just gonna go ahead and add this in there with the meat. Boom. We're gonna let that go for about 2.5, 3 hours. Get that on high. Go for about 2.5, 3 hours, because it wasn't the thickest piece of meat. And then we're gonna get our carrots and our potatoes ready, and we're gonna add those in about 2.5, 3 hours. All right, so our pot roast is going. The meat's been going with the beef broth, the garlic, the onions, and the red wine in the crock pot for about 2.5, 3 hours. Now we're gonna get our carrots ready and our potatoes cut, and we're gonna add them in there and let it cook for about another additional hour. Peel these carrots because they came from the co-op, probably fresh out of someone's garden. So they're a little rough. We washed them off. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the tips, clean it up, cut off the ends. Boom. All right, so I got my carrots cut up. I got my potatoes all washed. I'm gonna just go ahead and cut these, dice them into about nice little size, because they're gonna cook for an hour, 45 minutes. So you want them to be a little thicker than as opposed to smaller. All right, so we got our potatoes cut up. We're gonna put them in this bowl because they're gonna go straight into the crock pot and cook for about another hour. Give these carrots a nice little chop. Doesn't have to be perfect. These are pretty thick, so I'm gonna cut them in half. Do a little like this. Get them all in the bowl. All right, now we're just gonna add our carrots and our potatoes. Just put them straight in there. Oh man, it smells so good. And that meat's probably already cooked, but we're gonna let it go for another hour, get these vegetables cooked. This is such a good recipe. It's just like home cooking, comfort food to the max. You can make this for the holidays. I just make it all the time. Winter, summer, doesn't matter to me. I make this about once a month at least. All right, look at that. See, the meat's just falling apart. Just perfect. That's one of my favorite recipes, pot roast. Such a simple recipe, only a few ingredients, some spices, a little red wine, and it's just flavorful. It's an all-time classic. So if you try this recipe, make sure to let us know, tag us, tell us how it went, and we'll see you on the next episode. Just melts in your mouth. Just fall apart. So good.